This is episode 143 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 143 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today, I have Investor Mel and Dave on the show. They came back to do an update episode with me here today. They've been very busy. They've more than doubled the size of their portfolios. Today, we talk about creativity. We talk about systems, about scaling, about building a team, about investing internationally, including in the US. Just all the things that need to be thought about if you want to take it to that next level. Sure, we can grow on our own, but it tends to be slower than it could be if we grow with a team. And Mel and Dave share their story about how they never really pictured themselves building a team, but why they came to that decision and how they came to that decision and how they've grown since then and what difference it's made. So they talk about the major pain points and how they've really seen their lives change and time be freed up and enjoyment be increased by making these changes. So it was a great discussion. I really enjoyed digging in on that with them, and I'm confident that you're going to get a lot out of this too. Just before we jump into the episode, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell on YouTube if you have not already done so, and go ahead and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. It would be greatly appreciated if you take a moment for our audio listeners to rate, review this podcast, give it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, just to help more people to find the show and hopefully help them in their real estate endeavors and wealth endeavors as well. And without further ado, episode 143 with Investor Mel and Dave. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have on the show for the second time Melanie and Dave Dupuis, and they're the authors of, I forget the name, but you are on Amazon and can be found there, often going by Investor Mel and Dave. And without further ado, I just want to give you guys an opportunity to bring us up to speed as to what you've been up to since you were last on the show, which I think it was an episode in the 40s. Like, it was early.
Yes, yeah, it's great. Thank you so much for having us here.
Thanks for having us back on, again. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I know we were trying to arrange an in studio version, but we'll settle for this one for now and get you back again.
Awesome, great.
Yeah, so I guess to get you up to speed with since last time we spoke. So in 2020, last year, we bought 119 units. I think it was like 7 or 8 million. Anyway, of real estate, none of our own money, no joint venture partners. The same thing we always do. But we doubled our portfolio last year, which was very exciting, very scary, very eventful. But yeah, it was awesome. Now this year, 2021. Well, just recently, actually, we're looking in Costa Rica. We have an accepted offer. We're just doing our due diligence for pre-construction. Is it 3 or 4 bedroom villa?
Yes.
3 or 4? Doesn't matter. I forget. And then also in Mexico for a 4 bedroom villa. I was actually talking to BDO International this morning with their rep from Mexico about how to structure ourselves properly there with the treaties and all that jazz. So that's us. That's where we're at right now, I guess.
Yeah. Are there tax treaties with Costa Rica and Mexico?
Mexico, yes. Costa Rica, no. So now it's how do we want to own it, through our Canadian entities or through our U.S. entities. But for tax purposes, it looks like it's going to be Canadian entities for now.
Yeah. So we really focused on growth last year, and now this year, really looking at diversifying in those areas and states in different areas as well.
Yeah, and Andrew, kind of, because I was watching, I know you were down in Florida, and I don't want to steal, I know we're going to dive into so many things, but it's funny because more and more now we're diversifying, and everyone's like, well, okay, you're diversifying, but you're still staying in real estate. And it's like, well, yes, we have some crypto, I think we have 3 or 3.25 Bitcoin, anyway, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then we have no stocks or anything, but we're diversifying our real estate, but still staying in the real estate lane, which is super exciting. So just kind of going everywhere.
Well, right. And I want to dig into this because I think last time we spoke, you were really just hinting at the idea of investing stateside. And I guess this was like 2019 we talked, maybe even, no, it wasn't earlier than that. It was 2019.
It was 2019.
Yeah,
yes.
Probably around this time. So I think it's been almost 2 years since we did a catch up.
As an investor, I mean, we're still using the foundation of how we've grown our portfolio, no joint venture partners, none of our own money. But as an investor, as you shift and as you grow, you always want to be able to adjust and change. And that's what we're doing here as well.
So are you invested like just the other side of the border? Because I think you're Sault Ste. Marie. Is that right? Or are you further north than that?
We're kind of more west. So North Bay.
North Bay.
So we're like 3.5 from Toronto.
Okay.
But we're looking in Florida, obviously.
Okay.
As you were as well, we've got the LLCs all created, just ready. So we're looking at some short-term rentals kind of in the Orlando area, right?
Nice.
That's where we go in the winter. So, and then also just landlord-friendly states, Texas. Obviously, everyone's looking in Texas recently. So different places like that.
Yeah, there are obviously a handful of landlord-friendly states you could choose from. It's really just a matter of finding the one where the cash flow makes sense. What's on your radar as far as this is appealing to look at? Like, what's your initial criteria when you're looking at a new location to decide if it warrants looking further?
We're looking at two different things, which is obviously high cash flow. And then we're also looking at different markets that are high appreciation. So for example, just to give you some ideas, we've been looking in, I think it's Jacksonville, Florida, higher cash flow, lower, purchase price. And then we've also been looking in Orlando and Miami for that higher appreciation. And then, for example, other states, there's some places in the northern tip of Texas, and then all the way the most western tip as well, some smaller areas that have higher cash flow. But then also we're looking at like Dallas and Houston, where it's going to be more appreciation. So honestly, now it's focusing on diversifying in the states, staying within landlord-friendly states, but then having that cash flow today to keep buying, but then also having those massive lifts with the appreciation in the next 2 or 3, 5 years.
Yeah, it's great if you can get both. I mean, it's hard to predict appreciation. You can look at the trend, but you never know what's going to happen long run. But the one thing that tends to make sense is cash flow. As long as it's been stable for a while, that odds are it's going to stay. You mentioned Jacksonville. I actually drove through there. It seemed like actually a fairly nice place. Like they have a decently nice downtown, and that could be an interesting one. Have you pulled the trigger on anything yet in the U.S.?
In the U.S., no. It's funny. We're negotiating something in Georgia right now. I forgot about Georgia. We're negotiating something in Georgia. It was to get everything set up initially, all the LLCs, and then how we wanted to have kind of like the brains of the operation at the top and different things. We're also working on our E2 visa. So not that that's slowing things down, but we're working with
it's taking some of the focus away from the acquisitioning.
Yeah.
Juggling
all of that. Yeah.
So not yet. We don't have, as of this date, we don't own anything in the States yet, but everything, the infrastructure is in place. Now it's to find that perfect deal. Yeah.
It's been such a process for me too. Like the US thing, I'm just closing on my 5th lot today, I think. Nice. I think it's closing today. So yeah, I kind of got some things on in the works in terms of starting to build down there. But it's funny, when you bring up the E2 process, now all of a sudden it's not just thinking about it for what's best from an investor angle. It's what's going to allow me to, get that visa qualified so that I have the option to stay down there, move that and make that your tax home. Is that something you're thinking about doing?
Oh my gosh, so many. I know there's so many different things. So just to dissect, what you were saying there too, Andrew, is so the E2, we had looked at a couple of franchises. Now we're looking at maybe doing some service type industry where we're still hands-on, but we oversee it at a higher level. It's still going to be an active business though, right? We're still going to be participating, obviously, and it's still going to take some time. So that's with the E2 thing, which is exciting. And then the real estate as well is going to kind of go towards that E2. I forgot the other thing you had mentioned.
Well, it was mainly just about changing the perspective of like, you're not just thinking as an investor, you're thinking about how do I get qualified? And then of course, are you planning on making that your tax home?
Yeah, the taxes, well, we're still going to stay Canadian for the time being in the tax. We have kids, right? We have young kids. So
still in school.
So it is attractive though, moving our taxes to, let's say, a state like Florida while still, so we have looked into that. We've talked to the cross-border specialists and accountants and CPA and attorneys, lawyers. So that is maybe down the road, but as of, the short 2 to 3 years, no. But we would like the option of having that E2 visa just for flexibility.
Yeah, that flexibility, and also just set ourselves up for long term, right? We're thinking about benefits for ourselves down the road, even though it wouldn't be right now because of the kids, and also for the kids as well. They'll be all set up as well.
Yeah, definitely a useful thing to have. And I agree with you. Getting, tax home not in Ontario would be kind of cool. Florida has no state tax. So, but just not to graze over that, because I think it might be useful for some people thinking about doing this. What is the criteria to get that E2 as you've come to realize it?
What was it? There was, people will say that there's a minimum investment of 150K. I don't, from the immigration lawyers we've spoken with and our counsel in the States, there's no actual number. It was kind of more subjective. So we were going to do it through real estate, but then again, it's having a major portfolio and having an active role. So we're going to touch on that as well. We're going to touch on that active business again. That's the kind of be a service provider business.
Like a property management business or something like that.
We had looked at, I can't say it as of yet exactly what it is, but we had looked at a property management franchise. And then I forget what the other franchise was, but it totally wasn't up our alley.
Yeah, there's so many. You can go you can go into hair salon. You can go into different things that are close to being real estate.
Imagine I own a hair salon.
Yeah, right. I had a guy tell me to buy an ice cream stand. Like, he's like, it doesn't even need to be 100. They'll approve stuff for like 70. Meanwhile, I could put $500,000 cash into something real estate oriented, and they wouldn't approve it because they don't want any debt. Like, they want you coming in and buying a business all cash. So I'm taking the angle of all cash on at least one build at a time, and qualifying based on that. So the immigration lawyer, he's like, yeah, that should work. I can't guarantee it. So I guess if that doesn't work, then go back and try it. I'll start a real estate brokerage or something like that. So these are kind of some of the thoughts that are going through my mind. And again, this is all just kind of the same as you. Like, I'd ideally like to be able to stay here north of the border and then just go down there for the warm weather.
Right.
But we'll see how things unfold and what's necessary and what we decide to do. Okay. So interesting to know you're doing that. You're getting some money to work down south as well. That's probably a little bit strategic in terms of ability to visit those places and maybe a tax write-off.
Well, and that's the beauty is maybe stay at them. Obviously, you have to look up or check up on them.
Well, even we're taking the kids to a trip in Mexico, and it's a fairly long trip. And we thought, well, maybe while we're there, we're gonna look at one of the places that
check out one of the villas we're buying, and hey, all of a sudden,
there you go.
Here, Mr. Accountant, now you can So that's the cool thing about it.
Okay. So now let's get back to your organization sort of as a whole. You say over the last year, you've doubled just the size of your portfolio, which means since we've last spoken, it's much more than that. Tell me about how your organization has changed. I think last time we spoke, you were just about to move into your office. I think this is probably the same one. And then you were going to do a perfect BRRRR and pull a bunch of money out of it. That sticks in my mind from our last conversation. Like, what's changed since then?
Yeah, well, yes. So that office, yes, we moved in our office, and we moved out of that office. We're into our new office. We purchased
our new office.
Our new office. Of course, the same strategies. We bought it using creative strategies as well. So went into it using none of our own money, no JVs, and we're utilizing the entire top floor. With growing, we now solely own over 200 apartments. Of course, that comes with a lot of additional team members as well to help manage overall everything from finances to acquisitions and everything else. So we've been a lot of that as well. We've made some changes, outsourcing all the property management, increasing the amount of team members, both locally and globally as well. And we also have a large mentoring program as well. So we spend a lot of our time, of course, with our action takers. Yeah.
So what are some of the key hires that have happened since then? You mentioned acquisitions as a part of it, property management. I think you already had some management before.
Yeah, in the property management now, we've completely outsourced it, right, to a local property management company. But now it's funny because we're adding a different team member, such as like we haven't exactly decided, but the name of the title is, I think, asset portfolio manager or asset manager, which is basically going to oversee the property management here in our city, in North Bay, and then also is going to be overseeing the property management in Mexico and Costa Rica and then the States. So they'll be our for lack of better wording, like our GM, our eyes and ears for the property management throughout our portfolio. And then they're also going to help us with our acquisitions.
We've added 2 new clerical as well, internal clerical work. 2 new VAs, I think since last time we were on your show, personal executive assistants. So just extra support. So that way we can, which is the nice thing about growing your portfolio, is that the more you grow, the more you can delegate the tasks that you either don't enjoy or aren't good at. And that's the power of that.
Especially when the cash flow's there, right? Like when you're buying into properties like you are, so you're primarily buying, is it in North Bay primarily, or?
Well, yeah, that's where our portfolio was. And to be honest with you, we have liquidated some buildings as well, Andrew, obviously to take some of those funds and send them south of the border or to the other two countries. So yeah, liquidating some of the buildings where we've gotten the lift.
It's Monopoly, right?
Yeah, go buy some other buildings now. But yes.
Okay. So primarily North Bay cash flow. Is it still a cash flow market for, in your opinion, like still easy to do, high cash flow? Can you still do perfect BRRRRs?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's still like before it used to be an 8 to 10 cap market. Now it's some are in the 8s, some are 6s. So yeah, it's still a good cash flowing market. Yeah, we're just starting to, again, diversify. We're looking out in Alberta too. I like how it's landlord friendly there as well. So, but yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a real opportunity out there as far as Canada is concerned.
Canada's still an awesome market.
And that's the thing. And more you'll see that as well, that investors, you can do this anywhere. You can invest globally, you can invest in your city or cross-border or cross-provincially.
Can we look at a recent deal that you've done just to kind of get some context of, what your sights are set on right now?
Yeah, so we can talk about one that we did here. It would have been last year, but yeah, I somewhat have the numbers in my head. I might be rusty on exactly what it looks like.
Oh, that's cool. Back of the envelope's great. That's the way I roll. So what'd you buy? What was it?
Okay, this one, it was $2.2 million purchase price. This one was a mixed use. It has 18 residential apartments. Okay. All one beds. So 18 resident, it has 3 or 4 commercials. One has a restaurant, has an office, and it has a martial arts. Yeah, so 3.
Okay.
3 commercial. So that's what? 21 units.
You seem to like the commercial and the mixed use. Is that something you focus on a lot?
To be honest, it's so funny because we were anti-commercial before. Someone, I won't say who, is a little bit more hesitant on commercial, just because, again, I understand is that, it's a lot less maintenance and let's say day to day. But when there's a vacancy, it's longer, right?
So we compromise and go.
We kind of it's anchored by residential, but then there's still a commercial component.
That's what I like about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like mixed use. I think it's nice, especially if you can get like a variety store in the lower level restaurant. It kind of serves the needs of the people who live above. So it's a nice complement if you can have a mixed use building.
Exactly.
Okay, so you bought for 2.2. What did you have to put into that place?
2.2. So this was a 100% finance deal. So we used, through the mortgage brokers, we utilized a MIC. I know you know what it is, Andrew, but for the listeners, mortgage, investment. I never know if it's corporate company. Anyway, C.
Okay.
I just call it MICs. The mortgage brokers find them for us. So the MIC gave us, because of the mixed use, because it's 4 hours north of the GTA, they gave us, was it 60 or 55?
Okay.
I think it was 55 loan to value first mortgage.
Okay, and then you just raised like promissory no money for the rest?
Then we actually had the seller initially, because I thought it was going to get 65. Remember, we thought that. And then after they did the analyzation and they went back to their board or whatever, they decided to reduce it by 10%, right? So we're thinking, that's $220,000 on a 2.2. So the seller had originally agreed to hold 25% second mortgage. So I thought, 65, 25, and I'll have to come up with the difference. What was I saying? So, but that didn't work out. And because they ended up giving us 55. So then we went back to the seller because I was okay with raising 10%, right? 220,000. So I thought, I don't want to raise another 220 for 440 into this deal. So we went back to the seller and said, showed them our cash flow analysis matrix, and basically said, hey, the deal still makes sense. Either we reduce it, so from the 2.2 mil to 200 for us to still do the deal, or are you okay to hold another 10%, so from 25 to 35? And they wanted their price, so they saw our exit strategy, so they agreed to hold 35% second mortgage, what I think came up to like $770,000 or something.
Okay.
And then we promissory note. So it was a nice mix. It was MIC, seller financing second, and then promissory note.
Yeah, and this is where it's really important to always not be afraid just because it doesn't work out the way you think it's going to work out at first. To be solution driven, to be able to approach the owner again and explain to them the deal. And
you were in direct contact with the owner?
This one was years in the making. Yeah. Originally, it was through realtors. It went dry for about a year or two, and then he contacted us and said, let's do it together. Let's kind of phase out the realtors. So we had to talk with our realtor, and he understood, right, that it was, if we wanted to do the deal, it couldn't be. So a little bit of both.
Gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's nice when you can be speaking directly, because then you can,
it makes it easier.
I feel like people, like I've seen some sellers do some just obnoxious things when realtors are involved, and it's no slight against realtors. It's just what happens is you're almost dehumanized because they're not dealing with you directly. Screw him. He's trying to weasel me out of this. Meanwhile, if we could just talk, they'd see I have, pure intentions. I just need to make it work. We can both negotiate and work it out, kind of thing. So it's nice when you can deal direct. That's my point there. I don't know the best solution for that. Do you guys have any tricks to getting into conversations with sellers directly, even when the realtors are involved?
We have had some conversations, but I honestly think the investor focused realtor.
Part of it is really having the conversation and letting them, finding the right agent, first of all. They have
of course.
That understand creative financing, and really having the conversation. Don't assume that they're saying the right things. Don't assume that they're saying, hey, Mel, they own all these properties, or they're saying the right kind of things to build that trust. So don't be afraid to ask them, what did you say? What was the response? Okay, can you go back and maybe say this, and this? Just that communication piece has to be there, because you're right, Andrew. There's an agent, and there might be another agent involved as well.
Well, there's usually like two, right? Like you got your buyer's agent. So in my experience, like my brother-in-law, we just put an offer in on a trailer park, and we're negotiating through a seller agent, and then they're dealing with the seller. So it's like, okay, did you say this? And what'd they say? And just kind of telephone game, right?
Exactly. But stuff gets lost, right?
It does.
We're human.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so on this specific deal, so 18 res, they're all one beds. You've got 3 or 4 commercial units, 2.2 mil. What did you have to renovate, or did you have to renovate anything there to get it going?
That one, it was pretty. Again, this was an awesome seller. He took care of his stuff, right? It was basically, honestly, it was underperforming rents. It was, so all 18 one-bedroom apartments, he had just set a certain amount, and honestly, literally as we had turnover, I think we would up by like $400 or $500, like not even exaggerating. It was just, they were underperforming. They were beautiful. They were up. They have somewhat a view of the lake. It just,
and even just advertising that, right? The way it's worded, having the nice pictures.
Right.
So underperforming that way. The units were pretty much, some of them as they would come up, flooring, paint, nothing earth shattering, basically.
So it was basically just a higher maintenance amount, more or less. Like your maintenance just included some turnover expenses and tidying things up.
Yeah, exactly. we do the BRRRR strategy, but we really, really enjoy finding the underperforming properties where they're just really underperforming. We don't necessarily have to put tons of money or time into it, because we just find, especially with so many units, that it just ties up the team too much, rather than be doing a little bit of everything amongst all our properties, instead of just focusing on one building.
Oh, I agree. I love building stuff and renovating stuff, like for like the visual and like the creative fun part of it. But if you can get away with not doing any of that, trades and supply is, a constant challenge, right? So not having to go there is hugely advantageous.
Agreed.
Okay, so what are we looking at on this property? So really, you're in for 2.2 plus your closing costs, pretty much. What were you at for rents to start, and where did you get to?
Off the top of my head, I think the 18 apartments were roughly below a month. Let's say they were $15,000 to $16,000 roughly a month. Yeah, because he had it at like 825 or something for these one bedrooms, and we got them up to some of them 13, some of them 12. Some of them were huge with a massive view of the lake. So, and again, I'm going back a year. So let's say the rents were at $15,000 or $16,000 a month, and we were able to right off the hop. As new owners come in, right, tenants get spooked and they give notice.
Yeah.
People were in school and they graduated. So I think we had 5 to 7 units switch over, which we're able to increase from 8 to a minimum 11 to 12 or 13, depending.
So you're adding like $300-$400 a unit
for
every
7.
time they turn over.
Exactly. And then just negotiating with the commercial, they were on a month to month, and we made it longer term stuff with, giving them benefits that don't cost us anything, like extra parking spots, increase their rent, get those longer terms in, which then when we went to refinance, they were happy with it. So I think that's what you're asking, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to dig into some of the numbers, but I appreciate that. Yeah, like just the thing, pointing out that banks want to see longer leases on the commercial, and they want to see strong tenants with a track record, right?
And especially with the mixed uses. And you know this if you're buying them, Andrew, because it was a restaurant. And then obviously we all know what happened to restaurants. Now this restaurant stayed open. It was awesome. It's a Mexican restaurant, awesome food. So that, and then the Thai, whatever you call it there, MMA, right? Yeah. So he opened up again in the office, all that stuff. They wanted longer leases again, because we're 4 hours from the GTA, right? So they wanted that mixed use to have longer leases to satisfy the financial institution.
It makes sense. Yeah. A lot of times the bank just wants what you would want anyway, right? Like, longer leases are helpful.
What would you want to see? Yeah.
What would you be looking at for annual taxes on that building approximately?
Oh, geez.
Like 10,000 plus, probably 15,000, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just say 15,000. Insurance on something like that, I'm guessing you're into like the 5,000 to 6,000 range, depending on how big it is.
Enough. Yeah. It's a massive building.
Yeah. Okay. So easily getting into that ballpark. I'm going to leave maintenance at 10% since you're doing some turnover, you're doing some stuff to kind of add value there. Building like that, are you paying most of the utilities?
For the residential, yes. For the commercial, it wasn't triple net. It was, they paid their own utilities. I'm trying to think what else. Did they pay insurance, or did we pay it? I think for the bigger office, I'd be guessing here, to be honest with you, Andrew. I don't want to give you wrong info, but ish. For the commercial, some yes, some no. I know it wasn't triple net. Yeah, it wasn't triple net, but.
So between your like gas, water, electric, sewer for a year, are you hitting like $20,000 on that building?
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And then management, are you paying a manager there?
Yep. It's one of our,
Oh, it's one of your employees that manages it?
I guess it was before, but now it's outsourced. So I'm still looking at a year ago when I'm running my numbers.
Yeah. But, okay. What kind of percentage are you paying now?
Yeah, and we have a contract. We can't disclose with him because he's giving us a preferred rate.
Okay, what would a normal rate with him be then?
Let's say a normal rate would be what? 8%?
Andrew, you can't make us go against our NDA.
I know.
Anyway, I'm just joking. But
normal rate would be what? What approximately?
Some of them charge what? Some of them are 8, some of them are 10.
Yeah, 8.
Yeah, we'll call it 8% there. So, and then are you doing anything for landscaping, parking, snow removal, that kind of thing?
Snow removal, I think was, how much was it a month there last winter? I don't know, put a couple $1,000, Andrew, off top there.
For the year?
For that building would be a lot more, but because they do our whole portfolio.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll just leave like a 500 miscellaneous. So I've got 15,000 for taxes, 6,000 for insurance, maintenance, 18,000, which is 10%, utilities, 20 grand for the year, management at 8%, which is 14.4, landscaping, $2,500 for miscellaneous. I know we're just kind of shooting from the hip here. It's a little bit rough, but just to give people an idea of what something like this would look like. So initially it sounds like your cap rate was around 4.5%. Does that sound about right?
No, we're forgetting the commercial income. So that was just for the
the 15,000 was just okay.
The 18 res.
Okay, so we'll do 15,000 for the 18 res, and then what were you getting on the commercial?
I know the big office pays $90K a year plus HST, so let's just use 90,000.
Okay.
What does that come up to a month? I'd have to use my calculator.
It's $7,500 a month.
Yeah, it's a massive. It's over 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the restaurant pays 14 or 15 plus HST, and then the other one pays 13 or 14 plus HST a month ish.
$1,400 a month.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so the restaurant's about $1,400 a month. Both of them are.
Let's say give or take. Yeah. Ish.
Yeah. Okay. We'll call them both $1,350.
Going on my memory here, Andrew. I'm pretty.
I like it though.
Hands off when it comes to those things now, so we don't talk.
No, it's just good to get an idea. Like it doesn't have to be entirely accurate because I know we're going to be in the ballpark. So equals. Okay, so yeah, that makes your cap rate look better. You were like a 9% right off the bat, and
Yeah,
Well-
and back then, pre-COVID, right? That was very typical in our area. Yeah.
8 to 10, yeah, ish.
okay. So you said you got 65%, or no, 55% on the first mortgage. That would have been a 25-year, I'm guessing, and you would have been what, over 3.5%, something like that.
I think it was, to be honest with you, I think it was in the 5s interest only because it was a
Okay.
mix.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, it would probably be 5.5. I was thinking institutional.
Yeah, somewhere,
Yeah.
I think 5s ish and interest only.
Okay, and then we have two other tiers of financing we've got to consider. So you had your second mortgage, which was a VTB, and that one was at 35%.
35% loan to value, yes. 770.
Okay, and then what kind of interest rate were you on with that?
Did we do a balloon with that one?
Yeah, we did. I did. I don't know if I want to say it's on
A
air.
balloon payment at the end?
Andrew, we can't disclose certain things.
I need my lawyer on this one, Andrew.
As an investor, you never want to
Yeah.
disclose.
Put something
interest,
reasonable,
yeah.
Andrew. We won't
I'm
say
gonna
that.
say 10%. I'm gonna say 10%. Okay, so let's just multiply this out and see what that looks like. And divided by 12.
And I don't think it was as high as 10, but do it.
Okay, no, that's cool. I figure you're getting a sweet deal. People can use their imagination. And then you had your P-note money, which I'm just gonna say 10%. I don't know. Maybe you guys doing it cheaper than that. I know there's a range, but I don't want to pry too much here.
It'll all blend in, Andrew.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it always ends up.
No, and I should have known from last time that we were on your show, I should have came with like my boom, 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 my income, my expenses, but the pro forma is in my head.
Oh no, it's cool. Like I put everybody on the spot. Some people are like, they love that, and some people don't like it as much.
We'll call in our financial controller. Come with all the
next time,
books here.
On the
Yeah,
third,
let's
on the
get
third
ready.
interview, the answer, sit in with us.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I made some assumptions here. Initially, if you were at, so you had a 55% first mortgage, 5.5%, that would be like $7,300 a month payment on a 25-year AM. And then you've got your 35% second mortgage. I put that at 10% interest. Sounds like it's a bit high, but that would come in at $6,400. And then you have 10% P note, which would be $1,833. I mean, that's a lot of financing. That's like $15,000 a month, $15,600 a month in mortgage and interest payments. But you'd still have cash flow in that scenario without even boosting your rents. So right in, zero down, cash flow off the bat. And then it's all it's all downhill from there because you can just start adding on your turnover, right? You started doing like an extra $300 a unit times what in the first year? Did you turn over like 5 units in the first year?
Well, that's when we ended up, I think it's 5 to 7. And they went from, the
Yeah.
850 or 825. He used to rent it out to 12.
Yeah, we
again,
did
depending
give
on the
a
unit.
big jump. Yeah.
Yeah. So even through, 5 units increasing $350 a month now brings your cash flow up to $2,200. So all of a sudden it starts, growing significantly and adding to your overall portfolio. Now, did you end up going back and refinancing out that financing?
Yes, the appraisers were here a couple of weeks ago. We're bringing it to the A lender through the mortgage brokers. Now, it doesn't qualify for CMHC because over 30% of the revenue or 30% of the floor plan is commercial. So CMHC doesn't want to touch it. So yeah, we're going to go A lender, but not with CMHC insurance.
Gotcha.
With the financing.
So you'll be limited to your 65%, I'm guessing. And are you typically going with credit unions up there, or are you going with major banks?
On the way in, it's basically like the mix, the credit.
Yeah, private or MIC. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because Yeah, just because of creative
they're
financing.
okay with.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But on the way out, yeah, it's an A lender. I think this one is it First Nash, but it's going to be like an A lender that the mortgage brokers are working on. Again, we're just waiting for the appraisals from Colliers to kind of finalize, and then go see who wants to fund it.
Right. Okay. So that's an important point too. You're doing your appraisal before you know who's going to fund it.
And that's the thing is the mortgage, and this is a great lesson actually. So because it's funny because we tell our mentees don't do that because the financial institution might ask for their own. The mortgage brokers, the financial institutions that they've handpicked, they already know that they're going to accept the appraisal from Colliers International, right? They're international. It's a reputable company. So they already know that they're going to accept it. That's why we felt comfortable with pulling the trigger on it ahead of time.
Yeah, and this isn't advice to anybody, but I learned this from Carmen. Like she would always just with commercial, always just order her own appraisal first. And then her attitude was, well, if I tell them I already have an appraisal, they're going to accept it. They just want a letter of transmittal. So you have to get a letter like addressing it to them. And I've never seen that not work. I mean, I guess there would be an instance potentially if they had an issue with that appraiser that you happen to pick a bad one, but don't pick a bad one. But
well, exactly. No, I agree. I like that you say that, Andrew, because it's been our experience as well.
Yeah. And I would do that too, because if you don't want to just random appraiser. I've spoken so much on this podcast about knowing who your appraiser is. You don't want somebody who doesn't understand what they're appraising. So it's better if you can control that, okay, they understand the value of that. They understand the approach and why it's worth what it's worth. Because otherwise you could get a wildly inaccurate and unfavorable value.
That's happened to us before as well, where they weren't investor focused, they weren't considering rent and those kind of things. Are treating it more like a residential. It's like, well, no, you have to consider the income and the value that this cash flowing property, and you're bang on. It's you may not get the same, and if ever that happens and that it's worth more, don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
It can be expensive though, right? Commercial appraisals, you're getting into, I think we're paying like $5,600 for the one we're doing right now. Like they can really get up there.
A bigger picture, if you're talking tens of thousands,
right?
Yes, predetermining who you're going to use, if you're able to choose ahead of time, is key for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, know your appraiser. If you do happen to make a mistake, what's it in the grand scheme of things? I was just interviewing someone yesterday and was talking about, what's it for me to give a bonus to, my contractor when I'm making this much money, keep kind of greasing the wheels, keeping things moving quick. Sometimes you just got to make it bigger picture, right? What's $5,000 in the grand scheme of things?
Exactly.
All right. So that sounds like a very interesting deal. I love hearing the numbers from up there. Wish we had those numbers down here. Instant cash flow when you have all this private money on the deal. 45% funded with private money and still cash flowing is something that's challenging to do. It's not impossible, but it's more challenging down here for sure.
And yeah, 100%. And we'll have people, social media, we'll have people saying this doesn't work. And it's like, well, that wasn't the only deal we looked at. We've looked at this deal for years. We've been putting in the work. We've looked at other deals. So it's not just looking at two deals and going, oh, this is 100% financing or 90% financing or as high as you want doesn't work. You have to find the deals.
Yeah, you have to find the deals. And it's also thinking bigger picture. If you're wanting to, let's say, invest in, and let's use the GTA as an example, knowing that, okay, the cash flow may not be as high as we're getting here. However, let's look at bigger picture here. Your appreciation is likely going to be significantly higher than mine over 5 years, let's say. So although I'm cash flowing more every single month, when we refi, you're likely to have a higher appreciation as well. So and if you divide that and you take all the numbers into consideration, you could still do really, really well, even if it's in a hotter market. And
I don't know if I can tell a quick funny story on that, Andrew.
Sure.
Anyway, but on that subject, we have a mentee that is saying the same thing. So we're saying, oh, this duplex makes us $800 or $1,000 a month cash flow. And they were going, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And I have a townhouse or a condo and I bought it for X amount and it's been 2.5 years or 3 years and I'm refinancing and pulling out $214,000. And I was like, take that 214 and divide it by 36 months.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're making over $1,000 a month cash flow. You blow the $1,000 out of the water. So it's just a different way of looking at it. It's a different play. You know that.
I certainly do. And the only thing I'll qualify that with is, yes, that's fantastic. It's just, for me, it's so hard to rely on appreciation historically, but now with all the money printing that's going on, it's almost like nothing guaranteed, but it feels like a lot more guaranteed than it ever was. That being said, there's still got to be a cash flow play there for me. I got to find a way to do that, just so I'm not left, holding the bag if something does happen and the market does fall. And you never want to be underwater on something that's losing money. Being underwater, meaning owing more than it's worth, is going to be a lot more palatable if you're still pulling in a couple thousand a month.
Yeah. And that's where you really want to find those underperforming properties where you're bang on. You're not, if you get extra appreciation, hey, bonus.
Yeah.
But where you can really, really force that appreciation, because we all know over time you can literally draw a line with real estate. It always goes one way and it's up, although there are zigzags and we're buy and hold overall investors. So even if there's fluctuations, that's fine, 'cause it's a bigger picture. But you're right, for the refinance, how do I make sure I don't want to count on appreciation? I really want to be able to force it because the property itself is already underperforming.
Yeah.
Andrew, that underwater, because we get it all the time. So I just wanted to, for your listeners, like the underwater thing, and I give this example all the time. Let's say I buy a building today, 100% finance. It's worth $1 million on paper. It's worth $1 million and it's cash flowing. And then tomorrow, the market falls. The bottom falls out, and now it's worth, let's just make something up. It's worth $800,000 on paper. Obviously, I'd rather it be worth $1 million or more, right? Which sucks that it's worth 800. But it's not like the tenants get a notice in the mail saying, "Oh, by the way, the building's worth less. You can pay less rent now," right? So like it's
no.
And I know you know that, but that's what people ask us all the time. Like, why aren't you worried? And it's like, well, I didn't negotiate just a 12-month deal, or like that seller that's holding the mortgage is there for 3 years, for 5 years into the term, so into the longevity of the term. So if it falls out tomorrow, yes, I'd rather my building be worth more, but my cash flow is still there. I'm still meeting my debt. And then down the road, eventually it'll come back up. Maybe it'll be 1.2, 1.3 when that 5. Yeah, no, I'd like to talk about that, the underwater thing. I think it's important that listeners know that.
It's kind of like examining all possibilities, right? Like you want to stay in the game, right? The goal is to be in the game, right? You probably, anyone who gets into this has some sort of a goal. Like they want to quit their job one day, or, build wealth towards retirement. And a lot of help that's going to be if your first deal, you make a mistake and it makes you hate the business and you get out, right? That's like reminiscent of my story and all the headaches that I created for myself. So I just teach out of experience that I don't want people to recreate my mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was, curious, with all the deals that you guys do, a lot of successes. What do you attribute those successes to? From a tactic, of course, mindset's probably going to be your number one answer. I can certainly assume that taking action is going to be another one. But are there specific strategies that have just been highly effective for you? And if so, what?
Yeah, for me, probably, and yes, it kind of comes down to the mindset, but not just wanting to do it and taking that action piece, which are of course crucial, but it's also have made that decision that we will always find a solution. Because have we made tons and tons of mistakes? Absolutely, throughout the years. And however, we were always very solution driven, where we know that, hey, if something doesn't work out, we're going to find a solution, and just having that kind of right mindset of okay, maybe this one didn't work out, or okay, that's okay, because I'm going to find a different way of solving the issue. How about you? You were quiet, so now I'm putting you on the spot.
I was listening. And attributing success is, how do I say it? Well, you kind of made me think about it earlier, Andrew, as you were talking. How big is your team growing and everything? And I always think back of when we started in real estate. We did not get into real estate. Like, I never thought I'd have employees. I never thought I'd have a team. I never thought but it's understanding that you need people to grow. You need to grow. Like when Mel and I had 80 doors, we literally just talked about this because we're going through another growth spurt in our team. Don't be afraid to have a team. And I know it's going to cost money, but like when we had 70 or 80 doors and we were still self-managing, we were up to here, and we almost saw
like that's when we were still working full-time back then. Yeah.
Still working full-time, right?
3 kids at home. Yeah.
And I remember thinking, this isn't fun anymore. I don't want to buy more. But then we hired a property manager in-house. And then our cash flow went down, yes, because we had to pay for someone. But then our time went up, and then the fund went back up. So we bought more. So now we're going through that again. So if you're out there and you're thinking it's not fun, or if you're bottlenecked, and if you're the bottleneck, at some point you're going to have to take a step back to take 3 steps forward. And if that means hiring someone and making less cash flow, well, if you can create time and you can still enjoy what you're doing, I think that's what we just had this lesson again this last couple of weeks.
Evaluating as well. How are you spending your time? Is this a task? In the meanwhile, if I could either be doing this task, or I can find my next property that's going to make me tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands throughout the years. Why shouldn't I focus on that instead?
Right. So is that the way that you, because a lot of people, it's the mental hurdle, right? How can I justify it? Right. So do you sit down in front of the, Excel sheet and figure, okay, well, if I could just do one more deal because I hired them, would it be worth it? Like, how have you rationalized it to yourself?
Yeah. I mean, throughout the years, that was always our motivation, perhaps, of, hey, if we buy X amount of properties, I'll be able to quit my job, and then Dave will be able to quit his job, and I'll be able to buy my Escalade or my house or the cottage or those kind of things when it comes to monetary. But it wasn't just about the things and the items, but also that freedom as well, right? So if I'm able to, whatever it is, not able to manage if I have a manager managing the office in Mins, for example, then that creates extra X amount of hours for myself, and I can spend that time either finding another deal or just enjoying what I do, is being able to pick up my kids after school and those kind of things. So it's a combination of, when we started, it was very, very strategic based on, because of funds, right? When you start off, you only have so much funds, and as you grow, it does get easier, of course. But yeah, now we still kind of base it like that, but combination of our time, what do we enjoy, what do we not enjoy as well.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And what was your most critical hire, if you think back to the last couple of years? Like what just freed up the most time or created the most happiness for you by getting rid of something you didn't like?
Yeah, I know. I want to see what you're going to say.
Oh, there's so much. I mean, for me, I'd say probably our general manager.
Oh, that was mine.
Yeah, our general manager.
She comes from a background of a lot of provincial work, a lot of Fortune 500 work. Just she's been there, done that. And when we were talking about our, not problems, but our roadblocks and that, she's like, you guys go do the fun stuff. I like this. I like taking over this kind of, she's an integrator. She likes problems, right? She likes solutions. So that's been a really
she's very good at things that are weaknesses. So, and that's important in the hire as well, is finding somebody, for example, Dave always thinks big and is very creative, and finding somebody who can help us implement all these kind of ideas and make sure the books are in order and all different things that come along. Yeah.
Yeah, the complementing thing is big. I feel like I can do a lot of different jobs, so it's really about, what do I enjoy? And I'm sure you guys have had that too, right? Like, you've picked the part of the business that you enjoy doing and you're sticking to that. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, well, even between the two of us now, our day-to-day tasks, we don't work on the same things anymore. At first, when we started, I think there was that confidence. We felt better analyzing each deal together and working on each project together. But now we definitely, Dave has his lane, his specialty, I have mine, and we divide and conquer. And of course, we'll have conversations. But yeah, exactly. What am I good at, and what do I enjoy doing, and what am I not so good at, and I want to
get rid of? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And from like day-to-day basis, what are each of you working on the average day?
Well, just like literally today. So the general manager and I met with BDO Mexico, right, to talk about how we're going to use the treaty and there's 2 different types of corporations that we can create there, 2 different types of entities. And if we're going to use our Canadian or US. So myself, the accountant in Mexico, and the general manager doing that. And I know Mel trusts me to do all that stuff. And I love that stuff. I love hearing it. And then just before we hopped on with you, Mel was meeting with the marketing team, the virtual assistants, all that, making sure that everything is running with social. So, and then even that we went to the gym together this morning. We have a gym in one of our buildings. So we did that together, did BDO, did the accounting, did marketing. Now we're doing I'm doing deal analysis after we get off the phone. I think you're meeting with Dawn, the GM. So it's just a whole bunch of different things, right? So still doing what we love. Just I trust her to run the social media, everything, and she trusts me to talk to the accountants. So it's fun.
What do you have your VAs doing? Are they local VAs? Like, are they in Ontario or are they foreign?
No, they're foreign. We have office admins as well here in the office that help with so much. Our VAs virtually, they help with everything
Two
from
in Mexico and two in Brazil.
yeah.
Yes.
A lot of social media helping with that, the quality control as well, booking appointments for us, making sure that if I send a bio to somebody that it gets done. So a lot of helping with our own calendar, managing that, a lot
They're
of
an
social
integral
media.
part of the team.
Yeah, and that's the thing. People see Investor Mel and Dave, and yes, we're Investor Mel and Dave, but we're not just Investor Mel and Dave. We have a very large team that helps us, and it really is all of us that's able to do this together, because we couldn't do it there. We just wouldn't have been able to do it and enjoy our lives and our kids while they're young if it wasn't for the team. Yeah.
Oh, I love to hear that. Delegating is such an important part of a business, and I'm glad to see.
And it's not easy at first, right?
No.
You think, I want to do it. I want
The
that
ego. Put it aside. Eh?
It is ego and wanting to control things and
exactly. And is there little things perhaps sometimes, but that's okay. That's what makes us human, and we fix it and we adjust systems and go from there.
All right. So just before we wrap up, if people wanted to follow you, where should we send them?
Yeah, well, we're all over social media. So whether it's YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, it's always Investor Mel Dave. So all our channels are always Investor Mel Dave.
Investor Mel Dave. Okay. I'll include some of that in the show notes just so people can find you. And just parting words of wisdom you'd want to leave people with before we go.
I'm trying to think of something that's not typically said.
I'm going to butcher this saying, but it's so true. Don't listen to naysayers. Like, what is it again? The lion's not worried about what the sheep thinks or whatever that is. Just don't listen to naysayers. And then the other one, like the eagles fly alone. Like when people are telling you don't do it, are they doing it? Are they where you want to be? No, don't listen to them. Let them complain. Let them exhaust themselves. Just do your thing.
And to kind of add on a little bit to this, I would say think bigger. Think bigger. Whatever you think, if you're thinking I can only buy a duplex or I only want to do this, and maybe that's your comfort level for today, but people are doing this. I mean, look at you, Andrew, you're doing amazing things. We've been able to grow our portfolio. We're going worldwide. We're doing all these things, but we're at the end of the day, very regular people. We're moms, we're dads, and set yourself some big goals, because it's so exciting to do that. And once you are able to spend more and more time doing what you love, to me, that's what success is. It's not about the money. It's being able to spend your time doing what you enjoy.
I couldn't agree more. It's all about the time, right? You can't buy your time back. You gotta make sure you're doing what you enjoy, because life's too short. Yeah. Too short to be doing what you don't want to do.
Agreed.
All right. Well, thanks so much for doing this. It was great to catch up with you again. I'm sure I said this before, but I would love to come up and just kind of like be a fly on the wall with you guys for a day. And just, I'm so fascinated.
Awesome. It would be awesome to exchange ideas, E2 stuff. It'd be so much fun to sit and chat.
Yeah. Well, maybe one of these times when I'm headed up to North Bay, I'll drop you off.
Better reach out.
Before the snow, if the snow comes, we'll go take a ride on the snowmobile. We'll go for
give me some incentives there. All right.
There you go.
Okay, sounds good.
We'd love that as well. That'd be
awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much. Yeah, let's definitely stay in touch, and we'll look forward to the next update too.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for listening as well.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one.